Welcome back. I'm Sam Hedden, and today we are at the State Office Building down in St. Paul, Minnesota. We are lucky enough to get to sit down with Jeff Brand, a state representative, and I think that this will be a fun interview, and I think that it'll be great to get to know him. Can you tell us about yourself, a little bit about where you're from, who you are?
So I'm originally from Howard Lake, Minnesota, but I live in St. Peter now. And so I represent St. Peter, North Mankato, a little bit of Mankato, all of Nicollet County at the state capitol here. I've been in Minnesota my entire life, so I enjoy being a representative that represents the folks across the state as well.
Well, that's exciting. How long have you been doing this job for?
This is my first 2-year session, so I was just elected in 2018. Last year was my first session. This is the start of my second session up here. And so it's interesting to be back already.
I imagine if you're coming up to re-election and it being a big election year as well, that's got to be a lot. How do you feel about that?
Well, it will be a big election year. There are a lot of folks on the ballot, representatives, senators, Congress, one Senate seat, and of course the president. So there will be a lot of campaigning, a lot of people door knocking. I'll be in there too, door knocking in the entire district, just like I did before. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's how I learn about how to be a better representative. It's how I connect with my constituents.
So what made you decide to go into politics? Like, what was that driving factor?
I always paid attention to civics class when I was in high school. I listened to history lessons in school all the time, but I never thought of myself as running for president or mayor or anything like that. And so after graduating from college at MSU Mankato, I was able to apply for a position with a group called the Minnesota Environmental Partnership. They're on Rice Street, just down the road from the Capitol here. And my job was to be the South Central Minnesota coordinator or field organizer. And so my job is to go around from coffee shop to coffee shop and have conversations with people about the issues that really mattered back then. And still, incidentally, a lot of those issues still matter today up here. And I would bring busloads of people to the Capitol to talk with their representatives. And lo and behold, now I'm a representative. It's unique. I still pinch myself once in a while when I'm up here. But after that position was eliminated because of the Great Recession, grant funding dried up, I went back to St. Peter and became a realtor. Because that was the only job that was available back then in the recession. People were selling their homes, unfortunately, but I was able to find success with that. And it was a few years later that somebody from the city of St. Peter, not the city, but a person who lives in St. Peter, approached me, a good friend of mine, and said, "Hey Jeff, would you ever think about running for city council? There's an open seat, and it would be a perfect opportunity." So I did that, and I've been lucky enough to be a St. Peter City Council member for 7 years.
Wow.
Before I took the leap to run for House of Representatives.
Do you feel that was a good choice, like taking that leap?
I do.
Do you think that's going to be something you're going to keep going with and growing as far as politics is concerned?
Well, I'm not looking at becoming governor anytime soon. I don't have ambitions to be Governor Brand yet, but I will say that I'm glad to represent St. Peter, the town of 5 governors. I'll say that my daughter is really inspired to become mayor because of my experience being on city council. So an 8-year-old that wants to run for mayor, that's a pretty good thing. Maybe someday I'll end up being her campaign manager and we'll just see how far she goes.
Right. That's so you have a life outside of the office. Who knew? Yes. So would you like to share anything that you do for fun outside of being here, talking with people all the time?
Sure. Just like everybody up here, I like to go out in the outdoors. I like to hunt and I like to fish. I like to camp. I like to hike. I like to just go out and enjoy prairie or scenic and natural areas or just the woods, whether it be in the northern woods or the southern woods, and just be present in that nature. Mm-hmm. And I like to educate my young kids about what it's like to be in nature and what that is and what that noise is, and it's fun. It's good to participate with youngsters in that way, and I look forward to doing that every time I get a chance to.
Do you think that might also play a part in the fact that what you went to college for? Do you want to talk a little bit about what that was? You were telling my producer and myself a little bit about, what was it, Idaho?
Yep. So I went to school at Vermillion Community College in Ely to become a park ranger. That was something I really wanted to do when I was in high school, and so I was the first in my class to be accepted to college, and I was at Vermilion Community College, and that's how eager I was. I was the first one to get accepted, and it was really exciting. And going up there was really great because it was 10 minutes from the Boundary Waters if I wanted to go out and kayak or canoe or even snowshoe in the winter. And it was exciting for me, so I went after school to become, I worked for the Forest Service for a session, or not a session rather, but a season, a summer season in Idaho, which was just west of Missoula. It's the Selway Bitterroot Wilderness area. It was an exciting time to be out there for 10 days on and 4 days off and kind of just explore the wilderness. Hardly anybody else out there besides myself. But unfortunately, with regards to the wars that we were fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan, a lot of that money went internationally, and so unfortunately it was really difficult to find employment outside of that one season. And so at one point or another, I decided, well, maybe this isn't a pathway to what I want to do and what I want to dream to do. So I came back to Minnesota, got a 4-year degree at MSU in Mankato, and I've been excited to be just in that community in Mankato, greater Mankato area since.
Well, you must be very proud of it, because
Yes.
anybody from Mankato that's watching, this wonderful, wonderful picture behind me is actually North Mankato
Yes.
and Mankato across the river.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. So if you're watching and you're in that area, he's very proud of it, and that's very good.
You bet.
As far as being a representative, what are some challenges that you've come across so far?
You know, I think the challenges that I face are the amount of time we have to do what we need to do up here. Mm-hmm. Sessions are shorter than everybody thinks, and so there's a lot of evening meetings, a lot of late night meetings, just to get the work done that we need to do. And so everything kind of jam packs. It's like putting 10 pounds of something in a 5-pound bag. It's really difficult to do, but somehow we do it every year. And just the amount of discussions and need that's expressed across the state of Minnesota is it's really intriguing. We can only do so much in 5 months or 4 months, and then we're out for the rest of the year. And so I wish I could get more done while I was here, but it's just really difficult because we're always going from committee to committee, and then we have to put together the final bills, and then we're out. It's pretty quick, 14 weeks this year.
Wow.
Yeah, yep. And so that's the big one. And the other thing is just the partisanship. I come from the world of being a city council member, mm-hmm. where maybe you knew what the other people were, but that didn't get in the way of us having a 7-0 vote the majority of the time. Up here, even the logical becomes illogical because of party politics, and it's difficult. It's definitely intriguing to wrap my head around that. But I've been able to really reach across the aisle, and I've got some really great bills with lots of great bill authors that you wouldn't see normally together. I just introduced a child care bill that had 35 co-authors, and one of them is Ryan Winkler, the other one's Greg Davids. And I don't know if you'll find a bill that has those two together on it, but they do on my bill, so I'm excited for that.
Well, that's good. That's always nice to find that area where people will actually agree on something. Mm-hmm. So that brings me to, what's the most rewarding part of doing this for you?
The work. I mean, it's hard work going around and convincing people that I'm not trying to do something to take away something from them, or I'm not trying to cheat them out of what we're trying to do here. I'm compelled to want to work with folks, and so, you know, it's something that I've always wanted to do up here, and I'm glad I get the opportunity to do it. Is just work across the aisle, work together. And the rewarding part, the biggest rewarding part is just the amount of people that come up here and visit with me from my area. I love visiting them back in St. Peter or Mankato or North Mankato, but it's really also, I think, important for them to come up here to see the people's house, to see us doing the people's work, and also to have them feel like they're participating in that as well.
I think that sounds fantastic. I know before we even started our interview, you were meeting with people, you have people after this, and it's kind of like a nonstop flow, I imagine.
Yes, it is. Every 15 minutes somebody new. I'm like a doctor, but I don't make a doctor's wages. I only dispense good advice.
Well,
no bills.
Sometimes that's better than a doctor on occasion. So how could people connect with you? How could people find you? How can they get that chance? Now is a really good time to maybe share your website, or how maybe someone gets a chance to come up here for those 15 minutes and talk with you.
You bet. Well, I'm really easy to find. I've got a Facebook page and a Twitter account, and that's got my phone number on it. And there's a website where people can go to connect with me, to sign up for my e-updates. It's just the Minnesota Legislature website. So just go to Google, type in Minnesota Legislature, look for my name, and you find a lot of information about the e-updates I've sent out in the past, the pieces of legislation that I've authored and co-authored, just lots of the activity stuff. You can call or email to reach out to me. A lot of people do, to say, hey, I'm coming up tomorrow. Is there a chance I can get a time to meet with you? I'm more than accommodating as much as I can, and so it's good to do that as much as possible. Time constrictions, though, are sometimes we get committees, and sometimes they stack up with all the other things that are going on, but that's the biggest thing. I'm going to be starting a podcast called Things You Should Know with Representative Jeff Brandt, so I'm excited to start that up. And just I prided myself as a city council member on being approachable, and I don't want to do that less up here. I want to do it more, because being a representative in St. Paul instead of being a representative in St. Peter is a little difficult for connections to people. And so making sure I'm still present there, but I'm also present up here. That's realistically the goal.
What's your favorite thing that you've been able to do as representative? Do you have to do parades and public appearances and that kind of stuff?
I do all of that stuff. The most rewarding thing I can say that I do up here, of all the things, last year I had a piece of legislation, House File 85. I was able to work with my senator. We were able to get it to the governor's desk. And what it basically did was it was a bill to ask the Emergency Services Board, the EMS Board, to create legislation for us, or recommendations on some legislation, to remove that liability piece. And so that way, if you've got a rare disease and you have the medication on you, and an EMT shows up, they can actually provide that medicine to the person, like a shot, that sort of thing, without having to haul them back to the hospital for help.
Oh,
from
wow.
a doctor. And so we had a 9-year-old girl, Bailey Johnson, in our district that came up and testified with Deanne Johnson, her mother, and it was just a phenomenal experience, because to see us do something for a 9-year-old girl, who would be opposed to a 9-year-old girl? She started advocating for this when she was 6, and so it took a while to get that through the end line, but we got through the finish line, and the governor signed it last year. We were able to get them up for a ceremonial signature. That was rewarding to me, because it gave me the opportunity to give that individual hope and that family hope that we actually are doing things. We are actually listening to people in our own districts. Wow. And people with rare diseases, it's 1 in 10 people in Minnesota that have a rare disease.
Really?
So people will continue to come up to me. It's really interesting. People will thank me all the time, saying, thank you, this is going to affect my son, this will affect my daughter, this affects my uncle, whatever it is. And so I really appreciate that fact that I was able to do something that actually makes a difference, all because I did this. I just listened. And I was able to do what I knew how to do when I got here to get that bill through to the finish. To take it one step further, I always say to the chair of Health and Human Services, or to the chair of Aging and Long-Term Care, or whatever it is, I'll say, I had a constituent in my office, and they're really interested in this or that, and we really could provide something in our budget to help Mankato or North Mankato or Lafayette or wherever the place is that the people are coming from. And I think it's bringing those voices with me, carrying that sometimes the sorrow, like fatalities on my highways in the community. Highway 14 is a big issue.
Right.
We had a few fatalities in the Highway 14 area in a very short period of time last month. And it's not just hearing about it and contacting the families, but going to the funerals and carrying that with me to the Capitol to say, look what I did, and look why it's really important for us to get this fixed, because we've got families that are really hurting, financially, but also just emotionally, because now they don't have family and loved ones coming home. We could do better, we should do better, we can do better. And so all of us, I think, are having that, we have that opportunity to really bring our messages to the Capitol. And I look forward to doing that. That's, I think, the most important part of this job.
We should do better, we can do better, is the perfect way to think about working as a state representative. I really appreciate you letting us come in and
Yeah.
taking the time to let me ask you some questions, and we got to know more about you. Thank you for joining us. With producer Andy Watson, this is Sam Hedden, and now you know State Representative Jeff Brand.
Or you can do it your way first, and then you can do it my way. And then we'll just see
Shut
which is
up.
better.